it took 17 months of basically working with this through many different angles, topics. We talked about things in my life and my history, but doing somatic work and all this stuff. But the overall, what I look back and see we were doing is helping my body realize that it was safe to even venture out of shutdown mode a little bit and come out and expanding that capacity little bit by little bit until one day there was like a critical mass of safety and an awareness in my body and my nervous system in that unconscious automatic reaction that just got it, that I didn't need to go straight to shutdown mode. And it was like ecstatic.
Welcome to the Holistic Life Navigation Podcast, where we explore life through the lens of somatics. I'm Luis Mujica, a somatic educator who teaches people how to find safety in themselves. Your turn to learn begins now. Welcome, Natalie Ross, the artist formerly known as Earthspeak, to the podcast. I wanted to tell everybody that this whole thing with you is so interesting, the whole full circle of knowing you and having you in these circles of mine now and with me. Because you, people always talk about their big break. I call you my big break. You're my big break because, and then I'm going to let you introduce yourself. I just have to say this. I had no interest in being on social media, for most of my life. And it was maybe 2 or 3 months before 2020, I started an account just to kind of I'll just, put some stuff up here to help people. And then I put up a post about fawning, I think. And then you had me on your program. I think I reached out to you after hearing you on Karen Elliott speaking. That's what it was. I found Karen Elliott on your show because my wife was a big fan. And then I was like, Natalie sounds really intelligent. I want to speak to her. So I wrote. And you had me on, and that felt like it catapulted everything I do because so many people were coming in droves that heard that extremely unorthodox, trauma therapist, me talking about these things. And so I just want to thank you for that, for, giving me that platform and asking such good questions. And now it's so cool that we get to keep weaving. So that was my little ditty. Why don't you say who you are to this crowd?
Thank you. My scalp is tingling. It feels like just receiving that. It feels so delicious. Thank you. And yeah. Well, hi, I am a human being here on Earth doing weird human stuff, and oh gosh, I think before I even talk about me, I want to talk about our relationship and what that instigated for me too, because you came into Earthspeak. We had you on our podcast. We had you we collaborated, and you taught a workshop in our community about somatic therapy, and it was a pivotal moment for my life too, because I have been on a trauma healing journey since probably conception, right? And
trauma begins at conception.
I mean, generations back, right? And learning about somatic therapy and witnessing just the way you worked with the volunteer and the way you spoke about it, it just clicked something for me. I went and got myself a therapist, a somatic experiencing therapist, the next month. And I still work with her now, years and years later.
Wow. Yeah.
And I am a different person now. And I am even in the end of the second year and into my third year of the somatic experiencing certification to do this work and help others, because it is
so you're intermediate level right now.
Yes. Yeah, I've completed intermediate, but I haven't started advanced yet. So
tell me, when you say it's changed me as a person, when you think of yourself in 2020 and you think of yourself now from doing this somatic work, receiving it and now learning it and practicing it and holding it for other people, what's shifted? What do you feel?
Well, I spent a lot of my life in freeze and shutdown. I mean, to the point where, I've had constant digestive problems. And when we're in shutdown, and I know your listeners are interested in the nervous system, and they all have different levels of understanding and awareness. So if you want me to unpack or restate something to make more sense, let me know. But, there's the fight, flight, freeze, appease, and then that very extreme shutdown of okay, there's I am not able to fight or flee. Freezing is okay. It's doing something, but not really enough. Like we're probably gonna die. I'm just gonna go into shutdown and like
Hmm.
my system is like, well, how do we conserve life energy and either numb the pain or potentially get through this by just completely collapsing. And I literally would faint as a child.
Hmm.
Like I am not exaggerating. Like I've been in shutdown mode, you know?
Yeah.
And oh gosh, a series of events and things made just added to that. Like life was not easy.
Hmm.
And growing up, like coming out of that, out of growing up, out of high school and going into college, I just like spiraled. I spiraled and I was like, I don't even know how to be human in this world. I don't know how to function or exist. Everything was so hard. I was always exhausted. I was depressed. I was called lazy. I was
Hmm.
called
Hmm.
cavalier. I was called all these things and just like irresponsible and disrespectful and all these things. But I was actually just like so dysfunctional as a human
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I couldn't engage at a level that the world required me to engage at in order just to survive and take care of myself as a sovereign being.
Let's pause there
And
a minute because this is such a
yes,
beautiful, intimate introduction to the collapse response. Like you're teaching so many
yes,
people about, you're giving words and terms and understandings for these things behind, like, quote, laziness, right?
yes.
Cavalierism, I'll call it, and lethargy and hopelessness, like these things that we feel and identify with. When really, I'm going to underline what you said when you're introducing it. It's this animal instinct that the body goes through to conserve energy. If the body's at its edge of capacity and charge and trauma response, and it feels like even near death, even if you're not experiencing near death, but the body's at this extreme overwhelm, collapse, shutdown is an option. And so I just wanted people to hear that so they know it's something their body is doing. It's not who they are and it's not their choice. So I'm assuming you've created over these last 4 years an intimate relationship to that shutdown. Like, what was that like?
Yeah, I also want to say it's not a moral failing. It's not a
That's right.
character flaw. Like, oh gosh, just yeah. So working, my path took me to intuition. I mean, being in that space is such a liminal space,
Hmm.
and just being in that shutdown mode for so long and freeze, I naturally became attuned to the energetic world, subtle energy, spirit, and beyond. I mean, I have been obsessed with death. You know, I've dwelled in that very liminal space because of this. And I think a lot of people who are very intuitive often come to that intuitive sense because of some hypervigilance or some trauma response that actually attunes them to a different spectrum
Hmm.
of things that they can pay attention to in the world. And so,
That's a beautiful way to put that. I agree. I love that.
yeah, and it's not the only way one can be intuitive, but having worked with thousands of people who have come through, hundreds and thousands of people who have come through their intuitive journeys, I'm like, oh, this is a common thread. Like they are very intuitive because often because they've dwelt in these liminal spaces as, reactions from their body, just trying to protect themselves against perceived threats.
Mm.
And it's
Hmm.
just, yeah. So I went
You're
on a
speaking
deep
my language, Natalie. You're speaking my language,
my
Natalie.
language.
You're speaking my language, Natalie, because you really are. Because the way you just said that was so gorgeous. I've said it in other ways, but that's like such a clear, sharp way to put it. Is we've dwelled in that liminal space, in those liminal spaces when you're dealing with, especially developmental trauma, that
Yes.
all these interesting medicines and gifts, come to us in that liminal space once we learn how to integrate it. I just love that because I've
Yeah.
seen trauma as an initiatory. I've experienced it like that
Mm,
myself. So that reads really nicely for me.
mm, thanks.
So what is it
Hmm.
like for you now? Like, does your body
Yes.
still go into collapse and you relate to it better? Has the collapse
Uh,
decreased? Like, tell me about that.
so about 17 months in to my work with my therapist, we're doing weekly sessions. I had a major shift. It was it was like I became myself on a
Mm-hmm.
whole new level
Mm-hmm.
because up until that point, like the thing about being in that shutdown mode is even moving towards mobilization, even moving towards anything that would melt that freeze is in itself a threat that goes
Hmm.
back on a feedback loop to put one right back into shutdown mode and need to self-protect in by like the body is like the only method we have is shutting down, freezing, collapsing. And so it took 17 months of basically working with this through many different angles, topics we talked about things in my life and my history, but doing somatic work and all this stuff. But the overall, what I look back and see we were doing is helping my body realize that it was safe to even venture out of shutdown mode a little bit and come out and out and expanding that capacity little bit by little bit until one day there was like a critical mass of safety and an awareness in my body and my nervous system in that unconscious automatic reaction that just got it that I didn't need to go straight to shutdown mode. And it was like ecstatic,
Mm.
like energy running through me, like inspiration, motivation, courage, just capacity to do things I couldn't do before. And it was like a blossoming. It was
Mm.
freaking amazing. And it last
Yeah.
like this it was like a high. It like lasted for weeks, almost 2 months of just like being like my body was just like, oh, I feel like this is what it really feels like to be alive. And I've never
Mm.
felt it like this.
That I know that. I know that feeling. When you were describing it, I was feeling really emotional and I was feeling all this love
Mm,
for you because I'm thinking
thanks.
about like that blossoming, like you said, and
Hmm.
that the way you just said it, like I felt alive. Yeah, when you're living in a functional freeze or a collapse or fight or flight most of your waking life, you can't really perceive life because all your cells, your body, your bones are oriented towards survival. So you can't even take in your environments or experiences. So I know that feeling when this kind of strange cocoon like dissolves around you and you can feel for the first time and it feels good. It's not like scary. It's like, oh, this is pleasurable to be alive.
Yes.
That's yeah, that's a really sacred experience when you've done this work with your body, isn't it?
Yes. And it's part of what motivates me to help other people because this is this is such a gift of being human.
It is.
This is this is it just like it's almost brings tears to my eyes just to like know how hard it was to live without that and then to
Yeah.
experience that. And it
Yeah.
didn't make all my problems go away. I still had tons of problems and challenges, but like
Yeah.
I just could engage with life and actually desire to live in a
Yeah.
whole new level. And
That's right.
oh God, because I go deeply existential, having spent a
Hmm.
life in shutdown.
Absolutely.
I would call myself an optimistic nihilist, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, you've been
Like,
in the underworld of your body, for most of your
exactly.
life, and now you're just kind of
Exactly.
emerging. It's
Yeah.
interesting because when you were talking about something drastically shifted in you and you're not in that collapse like you used to be. Your body doesn't go right to it like it used to be. It has
Yeah.
all these other options. I so resonate with that because I used to have so much anxiety. And I remember I at one point I had an anxiety attack that lasted several months. It was like
Mm.
I would wake up as if I ran a marathon. I would go to sleep as if I ran a marathon. It was like my B12 levels were depleted. I was so stressed. And I started somatics about 10 years ago. 10 years ago was my kind of early entrance. And it's been 8 years and I think I've had like two bouts of anxiety in 8 years, and they've been a couple hours, and I've been able
Mm.
to relate and connect to it, and it's shifted. Now, that would have never, ever happened to me before. So, this work is, ooh, I'm
Yes.
blessed and privileged. I'm going to have Peter Levine on the show. He's coming
Oh,
up in a
wow.
couple months because he wrote an incredible new book that is
Cool.
coming out. And I'm going to be talking to him about it. But I can't wait to thank him
Yes.
because he gave me my body back, this work.
Yes.
And I'm imagining that for you too.
Yes. And I feel that towards you just for being a channel, a vessel of bringing me in contact with somatic experiencing. And like it is to me a way that we have agency. We
Hmm.
reclaim that agency that we are in a world where there's so much we cannot control.
Hmm.
And there is so much like even we can't control that unconscious automatic reaction that our nervous system has towards internal and external stimuli every moment of every waking and sleeping existence. I don't know, every mode of
Yeah.
existence.
Yeah.
But we can control and engage with and relate with the the way that we support and nurture our nervous systems to notice that they're safe, or to
That's
more
right.
accurately perceive what's a threat and what isn't, and to have more access to that fullness of that spectrum, not just to try to only be in this like calm, centered, connected state, but to
Hmm.
be in the fullness of that spectrum without getting stuck or spiraling into the 2 month anxiety or the,
Hmm.
because I resonate with that too. Like I, coming out of that, there were times where I would get triggered into collapse or freeze, but I would come out of it so much faster. I had context for what was happening and I had tools and I could navigate through it. And then my nervous system became more resilient and had more capacity for charge and for I I could handle really intense things. And instead of it just collapsing, I could mobilize, I could flee, or I could be like, wait, I'm going to go into freeze. You need to stop or leave, and like
That's
put in
right.
some confrontation, bring up fight. Like, I remember getting access to my fight response, which I have been a feisty, like, it's not like I've never had access to this or never had pleasure or never had aliveness, but it's like, it wasn't something I had easy access to. Like,
Yeah.
and,
It's
and
the
when I say like,
ease.
yeah, the ease. And it's still something, that was in early 2021. So it's, 2 years later, wait, what year is it? 20
24.
24. 3 years later. Like I'm still learning and expanding. This is going to be a lifelong expansion. I'm still gaining access to
Yep.
my
Oh, it's
fight,
endless. It's
and it's
endless.
awesome. Yeah,
Well, every
it's
life's
awesome.
experience to every situation we go through, it informs it
Hmm.
even more. It's like once you've
Hmm.
grieved a new grief, like, oh, I understand grief a little more. It's like you
Yeah.
move into another house, you lose money, you get sick. Oh, I understand all this a little more. It's like every life event becomes this
Yes.
incredible learning opportunity when you have these tools to self-relate. When you don't have the
Yes.
tools, it's like suffering. It's madness.
Yes.
But once the tools are, it's
Yes.
like, oh, this is going to be hard, but I got this. Um,
Yes.
and I want to say for those listening, I have you on here to talk about marketing. And you would think I have you on here just to talk about a beautiful, deep existential relationship to somatics. That's how we're starting. And I think it's good that we're starting like that because I want people to get a sense of your understanding of embodiment, your relationship to the body, your relationship to somatics and trauma, and how that gets fed into this work around teaching people marketing. So
Hmm.
I first want to know what started first, marketing or somatics for you?
Oh, marketing. I've been into marketing unknowingly my whole life. I didn't know I was into marketing. If you told me as a teenager that I would be into marketing, I'd be like, can I cuss on here?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd be like, fuck off, bitch. I'd be like, no.
There's that
I
fire
was pretty
response. There it is.
spicy. Yeah, I
Yeah.
was spicy. It was some things that happened, especially in the end of high school, that really shut me down. So like there
Mm.
was some spicy years. I would have been like, no way, that's disgusting.
Yeah, yeah, I get it. I get it. Someone's like, Luis, you're going to be teaching people about trauma. I'm like, why do I want to do that? I want to be a
Ugh.
rock star. Fuck that shit.
Right?
Um,
Rah.
boring. Not.
Uh,
Now I'm like, this is the most psychedelic thing I've ever done.
this is the most rock and roll fucking shit you could
This
ever
is
do.
so rock and roll. So it's like, I want to know how, okay, the first question is, how do you experience marketing?
Oh, like that.
Mm.
Oh.
Ooh, everyone listen to that for a minute. That's not how most people, that's not the soundbite most people use to experience marketing.
No.
How does that, how
Oh.
does that feel in your, I'm going to do that too.
Oh.
Where do you feel that? What's that about?
It's just like a relaxing back into the arms of being held by
Ooh,
community, by connection, by the universe. It is.
ooh, everyone
And
take
as I say
notes.
that, yes, and I say that, I feel my heart like just kind of like burbling up and like
Hmm.
fizzling and like, oh, it's
Hmm.
just like this is kind of like marketing is not a tactic or a
Mm.
strategy. It is something that we already always do, and it's been co-opted by this system that wants us to put it into specific frameworks and strategies, and we have to reach specific goals and da da da. And I love numbers, I love goals, I love strategies, but they come in service of connection and
So
in
you
service.
wait, you said
Yes,
marketing is something we always do. Like,
yes,
tell me what that means.
it's connection. It's just connection. And like this is what like from that nervous system level of having more connection within oneself, one's own potential within the hardware of their nervous system to have this experience, all the way out to being able to be connected to another, whether that's another human, to a tree, a frog, a molecule of soil, an element, air, spirit, ancestors. Like we are always in connection. We're never not in connection. And like the kinkiest part of this planet is that we think that we're disconnected and it feels so real and it sucks. And it's like, this is
That's right.
it's like that. And that I think is where a lot of people get really like this. It's all about connection. It's all about connection.
Hey, my friends. I created a space that is affordable, accessible, and anyone is allowed to join anytime, and it's called the Library Membership. The Library Membership is an online private platform that hosts dozens of my webinars, my somatic practices, private mini lectures, and movement practices. There's also a monthly sound healing, and you'll be invited to a weekly Tuesday live mini practice with me and other participants. You'll also be invited to be a live audience member in our monthly HLN team podcast recordings, where you'll take place in the Q&A that happens off air after the episode is filmed. For more information on this membership, click on the link below, or go to holisticlifenavigation.com and click on membership and then library. You can join right now, and you can cancel or pause your subscription at any time. I look forward to seeing you in there. It's all about connection, yeah. And I wonder when you feel in your body, when you've tried to market from the place of a tactic
Yeah.
compared to marketing from just I'm just going to connect with this person. What's the difference? Like, how does your body feel those? How do you see other people's bodies feeling that shift from tactic to connection?
Mm. I don't know. Like the answer that what I want to say does not. I just want to go with it. So
Do it.
I feel like it's going to get us there. Okay. There's something is so important about the difference between a tactic and connection, and the word repair is coming to mind
Mm-hmm.
because tactics that we're taught, that I've been taught, that I've been exposed to and consumed and maybe tried for marketing,
Mm-hmm.
which with air quotes, they're they're not centered on connection. They're centered on how do we um consume, dominate, extract from, gain
Mm-hmm.
from another? How do we
Mm-hmm.
take? How do we
Mm-hmm.
get in front of and take from another? Even but then how do we put a nice shiny package on it that we're actually giving to another? And we should do everything we should possibly do to get how we can help them in front of them and to get them to buy. And like it's so manipulative and it's so not in service of another's sovereignty or
Mm-hmm.
agency. And
Mm-hmm.
it is not connection. This is not connection. That is disconnect. This is
So I want to
rupture.
reflect what I'm hearing, like any
Hmm.
rupture, which I appreciate,
Hmm.
is like I'm focused on what I get from you. So I often
Yes.
call this transactional marketing, right? It's
Yeah.
like what am I getting from you? So there's that piece. The tactic is what am I getting from you? What does the connection do?
So connection is coming from that place of like, what is it that I am offering in service? And not just in service of everyone else, but in service of myself and others. And this is why I appreciate the I don't even remember what you called it, but the program I went with you,
Embodied
the
practitioner.
embodied practitioner, because this is all what you talked about,
Mm-hmm.
this is what you
Mm-hmm.
guided people towards, but in service of what is it that is your contribution? What is and how is this like I am very intuitive and into the woo, just no shame. So I'm a vessel, and you don't have to be. You can be an artist. You can be anyone, anything.
Mm-hmm.
But like as a channel, as a vessel, as a piece of I am Natalie interconnected with the greater living experience of this co-created universe, and something is channeling through me to be offered to others through my life experience, through the ways that I show up and engage with people, through the ways that I offer my nervous system to others, through the way I offer just my presence in a checkout line. It is
Hmm.
like my being is a contribution, and my offering in a business is the way that I've packaged that so that the people who can benefit from it can work with me and experience that specific thing in that way. And so it's so, let's see, I'm getting very all over. Let me come back to the connection piece, because connection versus tactics is connection leads the way. Is connection is about noticing what's happening in one's nervous system as we set targets, as we set intentions, as we engage in a method or a
Hmm.
practice or a tactic or a
Hmm.
strategy or a framework, and letting that be the navigator,
Yeah,
the compass,
agreed.
rather than being like, I have to answer this question and then do this thing and then it'll get this result like a machine.
Hmm.
Like,
Agreed.
so I love the I love the tactics. I love the thing like numbers. I love all that. But those alone, they do not embody that connection piece. Without that, we're
Hmm.
just kind of going through the motions. We're not actually
Yeah.
living, engaging.
Well, when you're saying about feelings in the nervous system, how it's experiencing it, it's kind of like we were working on in the practitioner group I led around how does my body experience the email? How does my,
Yes.
even how you just did when you were like going really exciting, you stopped and pulled yourself back in, you're noticing like, how's my body experiencing what I'm saying right now? And I
Hmm.
think that when we think about transactional marketing, we're so focused on the goal, like on where
Yeah.
it's supposed to bring us, that we lose the relationship in front of us, especially the work that I mean, I guess the work everyone's in, because if you market, you're marketing to humans, like you're not marketing to
Exactly.
animals. So it's like
Hmm.
there's human beings you're marketing to. So it's all based on them buying something, showing up to your event, whatever it is. But there's a relationship there. There's a relationship potential, I should say.
Yes.
And if it's transactional, you're going to bypass the relationship potential. But if it's connecting, you're kind of, I don't know if centering is the right word, but there's such a, for me at least, when I'm doing it in this connecting way, there's such an embodiment around what's the relationship here? What's the intention behind my words? What's the feedback I'm receiving? And it's kind of this like constant back and forth with my audience.
Yes.
Is that how you
Exactly.
experience it too?
Yes. You have to actually engage with other people
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
have a relationship on some level. You don't have to have a deep relationship with every single customer or
Hmm.
client, but it's like you're in this, you have to actually engage and connect with others. And it's not just here's what I'm going to put out there or here's what they want from me. It's like we're in a
Hmm.
blended, we're blending our different wants and needs and desires and offerings to find that nice sweet spot of like,
Hmm.
I can offer you this and you're looking for this, and this we can make this exchange and have these agreements, and we are both regulated around this, and this is great, and we're gonna, this is the adventure we're gonna take right now. And
Well, I'll
it's
tell you,
so different.
it really is. And part of the difference there is the audience builds more trust with you,
Oh yeah.
because I've been doing that kind of more connected marketing these last, I would say, 3 or 4 years. And my newsletter, the trust I can tell that we have is so gorgeous. Like when I offer something, it's just such a deep, simple offering without any promises. So the people that sign up, they're really, it's almost like I'm giving them something they've asked for. So I don't even
Hmm.
have to sell it, if that makes sense. And I,
Exactly.
right. And so I'm wanting to know how much is listening, how much is, receiving and considering, and kind of even the humility of being told that something didn't land well or they want more of this. How much of that is part of this connected, reparative kind of marketing place?
Yeah. Tons of it, because I'm very visual, and so I'm seeing like kind of mainstream marketing is like linear, like I'm gonna put this out there and then you're gonna give this back. It's this transaction thing, or but in this connection piece with through connection, we have to go on the adventure of the relationship.
Hmm.
We have to go and face those unknowns.
Hmm.
When we put ourselves out there, we don't know if people are going to judge us, accept us, put us on a pedestal and worship us. Like there's so many potentials of things, and they're some of them are exciting, some of them are scary. And we have to engage with that, not only with the other. Like if I put myself out there and someone says to me, I hated that, Natalie, it doesn't mean like I just have to change myself so that they like me. We
Mm.
have to navigate this in relationship and say, well, how do I want to show up and address that? I would like to know, like, what came up for them? What is it that they hated about it? And then I would consider, well, are they the person that I'm actually trying to work with and reach? And like, how can I
Mm-hmm.
make repair in this moment? Like, who's actually, like, what is the responsibility of whom here? Because when you get into it at this level, you get into the relationship trauma that so many people are carrying,
Yeah.
where, we have been taught that other people are in control of our experience.
Yeah.
And there are real places and times and ways that we influence and are in control of and responsible for others' experiences on certain levels, right? But if I'm here as a business owner and I'm saying, here's my offer, here's my perspective, and I put it out there, and someone's going to come back to me and say, this is wrong. This is absolutely wrong. And I'd be like, well, I could either say, like, let's talk about it, or I could say, well, I disagree with you. Like, I can respond however I want. I can respond with fight. I
So I
can
have a
respond with
question about
flee.
that.
Yeah.
How do you help people navigate that piece of, okay, I have an audience. I'm afraid to say this thing because they won't like it and I'll lose people. How do you help people find safety in losing some followers, clients, customers, whatever it is, because let's say as a result of maintaining their integrity? Like if
Mm.
someone says, you better not say that word, or you better apologize for this, or I don't like that, or I'm not following you, or I'm not going to take this. And you just say, I get it. Yeah, you're allowed to leave. It's okay. This is what I believe.
Hmm.
I see right now one of the most, tense topics are just being afraid to be canceled, like saying the wrong thing.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
how do you navigate
Or
people and
not saying
saying,
the right thing, or not saying
or not
anything at
saying the right
all,
thing, or not
or
saying anything at all, like
hmm
whatever it
hmm
is, that there's
hmm
always going to be someone in your audience that demands something of you. How
hmm
do you help people not fawn, out of fear of losing audience?
Well, for one, marketing doesn't just look at your business, it looks at your life. Like, if you really want to market from a place of connection, then we're going to look at who do you feel connected to and supported by in your life,
Mm-hmm.
and nurturing the community, the friendships, the family, the people that are
Mm-hmm.
your closest circles, and having those connections be healthy and supportive. That makes the risk of being canceled or being not liked or judged by someone else matter so much less, because
I love that. Yeah.
yeah, without having that actually being connected and engaged with the people in your life, because you're
Mm-hmm.
living your life, you're not just working, living to work, we're
Mm-hmm.
working and living. And you gotta have and the word that comes to mind is like some sort of secure connection,
Mm-hmm.
that it really helps you know that no matter what, you are still going to be okay. Tending to that. And
Yeah,
that
it's
helps
beautiful.
expand that capacity to take the risk of putting oneself out there, of not being liked, of saying the wrong thing or not saying the thing or whatever, all kinds of risks.
That's
Like
really
I
that's
have,
really good
yeah,
stuff. Like
yeah,
securing yourself in where you actually have supportive, deep relationships.
yes,
Because
yeah.
that one person or those 10 people or the 5% of people that don't like you because of what you say or do, they're not supporting you already, most likely.
No, and they're
Right?
not your, yeah. If you're relying on them to be your like human to human connection that feeds you on a nervous system level in your everyday life, then you're going to be really disappointed.
Yeah, I can attest to this because I remember last year I wrote a post online about male privilege and got a lot of anger thrown at me, like volatile rage. And it was interesting that people that were trying to cancel me or were saying really shameful things, none of them had ever spent any time in my spaces. And the
Yeah.
people that were, let's say, in the membership that pay every month and they put the time in and like we have a real relationship, they were really curious. They were like, well, I know character. I've come to trust your integrity. I'm curious what this means for you, even the ones that were triggered. And we had this gorgeous, session and membership about it. And we moved through so many things and learned so many things. But it was such a difference in the people who actually are supportive and I have a relational connection to, including my personal intimate relationships. And then this greater world where there's no relational support. It was like, bye, girl. You can go.
Mm-hmm.
See you later.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas everyone else was actually there for the long run. So I think
Right.
what you're saying about really feeling into and anchoring into where the support actually lives,
Mm-hmm.
it gives you that security then to handle being disliked, doesn't it?
Exactly. And what comes to mind is marriage. I mean, I'm married almost 10 years now and with my partner for 13 years. And just having that comes back to repair.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're going to have turbulence, we're going to have conflict. But what makes it different than like why it doesn't fall apart is because we're able to repair. We are
Mm-hmm.
committed and care enough and have a support team of community coaches, therapists, people who can help us help ourselves and help each other and not just feel like not just believe the trauma response that comes up that oh my god it's terrible, I'm gonna die and everything's gonna fall apart, I'm never gonna get anything done, I'm never gonna
Yeah.
make it, like I'm this is awful, I'm terrible, da 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 da. Like no, it's like we have nurtured this web of connection within ourselves with each other. We have specific people that we do pay to help support us individually and together. And then we have our friends and family, and we have built a lifestyle of connection that really honors the possibility of repair because
Mm-hmm.
this is what is missing in we have such a disposable culture, all the way from the physical things we use to the way that if someone doesn't have the same political view as you, you're like, I can't be friends with that person anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what if we could just repair and find connection and navigate the differences? And that doesn't mean we have to all agree or all buy each other's things or all be friends. We can not be friends. We can not talk to people. We can not buy things. But we need to, in my opinion, I'm like, this piece about repair, this is where it's coming in. It's like that is the difference between just this like single line of
Mm-hmm.
consume, extract, and waste. It
Mm-hmm.
repair
Mm-hmm.
is what turns that
Absolutely.
into that ever regenerative cycle of growth.
Absolutely.
I have a master's degree in soil science because I'm obsessed with compost, and my undiagnosed, untreated ADHD took me down that rabbit hole to the master's level, which I had, I immediately did not even work in soil science. But from what I learned, it's like, yes, this nature, the earth, if we look around, it has repair on many different time scales and in many
Mm-hmm.
different ways. And we have forgotten that. And
Mm-hmm.
this nervous system work is so like I have repaired my access to ventral vagal, to that safety and security. And I can now be activated or triggered and come back to safety instead of sliding into shutdown and collapse or going into anxiety. I can come back to safety. This is repair. This is
Mm-hmm.
coming
Mm-hmm.
back and it's not static. And so like it's like it really is. I love that you're holistic life navigation because it's a very holistic picture instead of looking at it from like just
Yeah.
this one little thing that this one thing has to happen and my whole life survival hinges on this. And if I don't do this, da, da, da. It's like, no, we need to cultivate these rich, connected lives. And
Like
it doesn't happen
biodiversity is
overnight.
what you're saying, like more options.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
so this is my final question because we're actually
Okay.
almost out of time. What does, based on what you just said, what does secure marketing look like? And I'm sure it looks like
Hmm.
many things, but from what you've seen with clients and with yourself, what does
Hmm.
it look like when someone feels safe and secure in their body, and from
Hmm.
there they connect or market with their audience? What does that mean? What does that look like?
Yeah. And like every person's outer approach will look different. Like
Yeah, that's
someone
why I'm
could be
wondering, what have you
secure and
seen?
running ads. Someone could be secure and putting up flyers. Like the outer motions, they're agnostic, I guess is the word. Like
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's the inner and some of the indicators of it would be there's so many angles I want to go at this from.
Play with your own, like if even your
Yeah,
own experience marketing from your body. What's it
yeah,
feel like to be more secure as you market now?
yeah. Mm. It feels like I'm calling in my friends, my
Hmm.
soul family on some level. And not everyone that I sell to or market to has to be my friend, but I'm so stoked to put myself out there because I know my broadcast is attuned to attract those people that are, we're going to refract each other's colors in certain ways and
Hmm.
play and make songs and music. And I don't, I'm marketing, but like marketing music, like
Yeah.
we're going to live and engage, and it's enlivening. And like when my clients have sessions with me, they go away feeling like enlivened, and like, that was like a massage for the soul. And
Mm-hmm.
so much of the work is really just noticing what's happening in one's body and actually honoring those reactions. What is your capacity now? And people are often trying to leap over a chasm when they can really just take a tiny baby step.
Yeah.
And the baby steps do add up. And we've been taught we have to like take this big dramatic thing, have this big dramatic plan. And I pull people back to what is actually their capacity right now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you'll be surprised how quickly one's capacity can, all of a sudden the next baby step is the chasm and it's easy, but
Yeah.
you can't just leap. And so a lot of it looks like breaking through, breaking down, composting these misconceptions that people have, or these
Yeah.
beliefs that people have about what they should do or supposed to do, or how it has to look, or what they have to be, like da 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 da.
So let me
And
reflect this
actually,
back to you,
yeah,
just because
yeah,
we have to
yeah.
close. You said two important things.
Hmm.
You said about I feel like I'm calling in friends and we're
Hmm.
reflecting each other's colors.
Hmm.
That's really important to me because that speaks to the. I think with the transactional marketing, it's a tendency to say what you think someone wants to hear, whereas with
Yes.
this more like relational connecting marketing, you're just sharing yourself. And through sharing yourself, some uniqueness of you comes out and it touches a uniqueness in them that resonates, right? And then
Hmm.
that's where you're saying this family piece. So I think that part's really beautiful. And then the second part you're bringing in is really about titration. It's like, how do
Yes.
I see my goal? Let's say there's my goal, what I wish I could do. Okay, what is my actual ability today based on capacity, like you said? And if I want to send out one newsletter a week, but my capacity today is just to sit and dream about the newsletter, not even write it, I start
Yes.
there and then it leads me to
Exactly.
that. I
Hmm.
love that because again, transactional marketing bypasses the body and capacity because looking at the goal, right? But
Hmm.
this more somatic relational piece is saying, where am I now? What's my ability now? For
Yes.
those people listening, how can they get in touch with you?
Yes. There's one other piece I want to say about them, if I can, just real quick.
If you could do it in a
About,
minute.
yeah, okay. Because even when we get into the space of I want to send a newsletter, but all I have the capacity for now is thinking about the newsletter. When we come from that angle, what I've seen with myself and with my clients is this is where we are tapping into the concert and co-creation beyond just ourselves and that linear
Hmm.
mechanical this does that. Like I like the numbers, I track the numbers, I do these things, conversions, I understand these things, I like to know them. But also when I've noticed when me and my clients go into what we actually have capacity for, then things that those synchronicities show up. The things that, oh, I'm sitting thinking about my newsletter and that's all I have capacity for. And then a friend calls and is like, I would really love to hear you talk about blah, blah, blah. And you're like, you know what? I was just thinking about that. And then you get a little boost. Like
That's
things
right.
like that's where the co-conspiracy of the universe comes together and is like, let's fucking help you.
Yes.
or
Yes.
or the things that you need to face in your nervous system, the activation waves that have not completed, they will show up to be completed. And it's not that you've done the wrong thing, it's that, oh, I've done what's my capacity, and now the wave is going to respond with what I have capacity to process, and that's going to expand. So it's like we're in conversation with the co-creative
Yeah.
force of the universe, but we're also being very tangible and tactical, and
Hmm.
it's a both and.
It's
So
a
yeah,
both and it's even that speaks to the relational piece. Like it's beyond
yes,
you. Like you're doing it,
exactly,
and other things come in that are beyond your awareness or logic. They're going to help propel this whole piece.
exactly,
So, how do people
exactly.
find you?
Yeah, you can get in touch with me at natalie.net. And this year I'm experimenting with doing marketing mapping strategy sessions. helping people will come together, and at the beginning of each month we'll look at like, what is it that you want to do with your marketing? How are you going to reach new people? How are you going to nurture your people? What are you going to promote? What are you going to say? What are you going to talk about? And we're going to just map it out in that, guided by that somatic experience, guided
Mm.
by your body. But we're going to put it out at your pace, at your capacity. What does your marketing map look like for this month? And I also love moon cycles, so if you want to do it by the moon cycle, we're going to acknowledge like what's happening in your life, what are your cycles, and really make that nice map that you can return to as a touch point, but is flexible enough for life to as life unfolds, that you can pivot.
It sounds excellent. And you get to
Yeah.
visualize the somatic.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you might not be able to know your own cycles. Once you map it out and you put it somewhere, you get to see them. That's gorgeous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and one of
Natalie,
my gifts is helping people know what to talk about. They're like, "What do I talk about?" I'm like, "You are going to know what to talk about after we leave."
especially with
Yeah,
you, like,
yeah.
I think what people maybe get from this is you are like a bubbly, excited human being that's very, very easy to talk to. And
Thanks.
it's like, when you're working with that, for me, if I'm working with someone around marketing, I want that energy. I want someone that makes
It's
it
fun.
exciting. Yeah, and brings
Yes,
fun
it
to
should
something
be
that's so
fun.
heavy and logical usually.
Yes.
So I think you're the excellent candidate for that bridge, from like
Thank
logic
you.
to relation.
It's
So
the
we
the
have
little
to close there.
mycelial
We have,
mushrooms, and with
we're
that,
closing
thank
the
you.
mycelial mushroom right now,
Hmm.
and we're gonna let this.
I
What's
appreciate
the
you,
word?
Luis.
Thanks,
Yes,
love. The spores.
yes.
We're gonna let the
Spores.
spores. The
Let them
spores will go out into
inoculate
the world when they're
minds.
ready. We're gonna go
Hmm.
inoculate some minds. That's what we're doing here.
Hmm.
Okay, love.
Thank
Give
you
you a
so
big hug,
much.
and thank you so much.
Hugs.
I'll see you somewhere, I'm sure.
I'm sure. Take care.
Bye. That's the end of today's episode. Now let's take a moment to notice where we feel the episode in our bodies. Close your eyes. Take a breath. And let whatever wants to come up, come up. And remember, those sensations hold the wisdom that we're looking for. If you want to go deeper, visit holisticlifenavigation.com.